This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
This is your WMDX Daily News Roundup for Mad Radio 92.7 FM and 1580 AM in Madison.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. New developments in the Abundant Life school shooting. The Dane County Medical Examiner's Office released the names of the victims who died. They are 14-year-old Ruby Vergara and 42-year-old Erin Michelle West. The report says they died of, quote, homicidal firearm-related trauma, end quote. Ruby's family chose to publicly post her obituary. They wrote that she was a big reader and played keyboard in the family band and loved to sing. She has a brother and had a special bond with her pets, cat Ginger and dog Coco. Meanwhile, West was a long-term substitute teacher at Abundant Life Christian School and also has kids who go there. And more new information. 2 people shot are still in the hospital fighting for their lives. We've learned the other 4 who are expected to recover are now home. Meanwhile, a California judge has ordered a man who was allegedly talking to the shooter and planning an attack of his own to surrender his weapons. Court documents show the FBI served a 20-year-old man in Carlsbad, California, with a gun violence restraining order. According to the documents, the man was texting with the shooter and told her he would arm himself with guns and explosives to target a government building. Now, this gun violence restraining order is a civil issue, not a criminal one. We often call these red flag laws. They allow law enforcement to temporarily seize the weapons of someone who's been deemed a threat to themselves or to others. California has red flag laws. Wisconsin does not. And here at home, Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes says the shooter had 2 handguns, but only used one of them. He says federal authorities are tracing both firearms. They're still asking for any information people could have about the shooter. You can submit tips through Crime Stoppers or P3 Tips. Grief can be especially hard during the holidays, and now the whole Madison community is feeling it. Melissa Kay explains some coping strategies.
It's okay to say no to invitations or certain responsibilities during the holiday season. The festive occasions can be difficult. Janet Wimmer, a clinical therapist with Aspirus Health, says grief can feel heavy this time of year.
Grief is especially big around the holidays, especially if it's the first holiday after the loss of a loved one.
There are support groups and bereavement group options in the area, and there are a variety of hotlines that you can call to talk through your grief. Wimmer said it's also important to reach out to family and friends. This is also a good time of year to emphasize self-care.
For those who just find themselves really stressed, take a step back, slow down all of the things that you're running at doing, and take time to breathe deeply and take a few moments for yourself.
For mental health help, Madison has a new webpage with resources. You can just head to cityofmadison.com/resources. A Grace also has a grief support center, and you don't need to be connected to any other A Grace services. Everyone is welcome. A Dane County judge has put his ruling reversing parts of Act 10 on hold, at least for now. Judge Jacob Frost ruled that most of Act 10 is unconstitutional, including one of its most controversial provisions that remove the right to collective bargaining for most public workers. The Republican-led legislature is appealing his decision and is asking him to pause his ruling. Essentially, he's agreed to a temporary pause while he makes a decision on a final pause. The case goes to court again on January 24th, so the judge's stay will be in effect at least until then, maybe longer. Madison Teachers Inc. had already demanded a bargaining session with Madison Metropolitan School District leaders, so now they'll just have to keep waiting. Remember a couple weeks ago when someone hit the plane on display at the Stoughton VFW and drove off? Well, authorities have found the person they say is responsible. On December 2nd, a neighbor saw a semi-truck hit the plane and speed off. The plane was knocked onto its nose. Special Air Force members had to come stabilize it. Authorities say they managed to track down a 32-year-old truck driver from Massachusetts. They wrote him a ticket. He may have to pay a fine of $187, but he could also be ordered to pay restitution. He'll be in court January 15th. It's about to get more expensive to keep Wisconsin kids behind bars, and plans for new juvenile detention centers across the state have been in the works for years, but aren't really getting off the ground yet. Stuart J. Waddles reports.
A Wisconsin Watch report says the cost of jailing kids is about to jump. It's reported the cost of incarcerating a juvenile at Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake has ballooned to nearly $463,000 a year. It'll be nearly twice as much in 2 years, and that's despite a declining population of youth. Leaders in the state have been trying to close the facility due to ongoing funding and policy issues. Alternative plans to build smaller regional facilities have been slow to move along.
This cost increase means it would cost the state of Wisconsin about $862,000 a year to keep one kid behind bars. That's 58 times what taxpayers spend on the average K-12 public student. And it's now official, the Brewers will stay in Wisconsin through 2050. The Southeast Wisconsin Professional Baseball Park District voted to approve the lease for American Family Field for the next 25 years. Last year, the governor and the legislature worked together on a bipartisan deal, how often do you hear that these days, to keep the crew in Milwaukee till 2050. Officials say since the park opened in 2001, it's brought in $2.5 billion in revenue. Governor Tony Evers calls this a home run. And if you've got frozen pizza at home, you're going to want to check the freezer. Palermo's has recalled more than 1,700 Connie's thin crust cheese frozen pizzas. The company says it's because of potential plastic contamination. The pizzas being recalled were sold here in Wisconsin, plus Illinois and Minnesota. So if you've got one in your freezer, throw it away and contact the store you got it from. We've seen lots of scams circulating Wisconsin in the last few weeks, and one of the best pieces of advice to protect yourself is to just ask a friend or family member before you do anything rash after being contacted. Here's Lisa Hale.
Don't be a victim this holiday season. Before sending any money, gift cards, or Bitcoin to unsolicited emails or texts, reach out to someone you trust, like your financial advisor or institution, says Grant Wheat, Vice President of Risk Management at Verve Credit Union.
Before you do anything at all, before you take the money out, before you transfer anything, before you go buy gift cards, feel free to reach out to your financial institution. Talk to us. We want to help you. We want to be your partners in all this so you don't feel taken advantage of.
Wheat says the most common holiday scams are fake charities, look-alike online stores, gift card scams, and holiday vacation scams.
And if you're hitting the road ahead of Christmas, you'll be happy about gas prices. The national average will likely hit $2.95 per gallon on Christmas Day. That'll be the lowest we've seen on Christmas since 2020. Officials at Gas Buddy say prices should finally feel a little more like normal for Americans filling their tanks after the budget-breaking levels we've had in recent years. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Pack is back in Green Bay. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. After an extra day off, the Packers are back at work, getting ready to host the Saints on Monday Night Football. Linebacker Quay Walker expected to be out a while with an ankle injury. Rookie linebacker Edgerrin Cooper named NFC Defensive Player of the Week after his performance Sunday night in Seattle. Matt LaFleur.
You know, he's a really talented guy. He did a great job, and I mean, on that screenplay where they hit Jackson Smith-Jigba out the backfield, that was just an elite play by somebody that has elite athleticism.
NBA, the Bucks in Cleveland tomorrow night against the Cavaliers. College basketball, Marquette with a win in their first Big East game of the season, beating Butler 80-70. Marquette now 10-2, ranked 9th in the nation. Head coach Shaka Smart.
You know, somebody told me after the game, they said, well, we'll take that one. They've obviously never played or coached. Like, this no Big East game is like, we'll take it. We have a level of gratitude that we were able to do what it took to win. You know, Butler's a dangerous team that's had some good wins on this season. Obviously beat us last year here. And I thought the way our guys handled adversity was way better this time around, and that's what allowed us to win.
That's Marquette Shaka Smart. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Week 51 at the domestic box office has some great films opening this weekend and a little something for everyone. Starting off with movies you can take your kids to, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 hits theaters featuring the voices of Jim Carrey and Keanu Reeves. The third installment of the franchise is pulling in 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the film is rated PG. The new Lion King film Mufasa also opens a wide release and is also rated PG. It is pulling a barely fresh rating of 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Fire Inside tells the story of a Flint, Michigan native and the first woman to win a gold medal at the Olympics in boxing. The film is crushing on Rotten Tomatoes with a 94% favorable rating from critics. If you're in the mood for creepy, check out Nosferatu, which is reviewing incredibly well and hits theaters on December 25th. The other big flick that hits theaters on Christmas Day includes A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothée Chalamet. Let's go to the movies. Variety reports that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has announced the shortlist for the Oscars in 10 categories. Emilia Perez led the way with 6 nominations, and Wicked came in second with 4. Voting to determine the actual nominations will take place January 8th, with nominations being announced January 17th. The 97th Oscars ceremony will air March 2nd of this coming year. Superscribe Taylor Sheridan has received criticism for his role of Travis on Yellowstone. The show's creator has come under fire on social media, with fans saying that they thought it was lame that he wrote himself onto the show and made Bella Hadid his girlfriend, calling it totally unnecessary. Just for the record, folks, Taylor Sheridan has written himself onto other shows as well, including Lioness and 1883. Maybe he's just created so many shows he's running out of actors. Fans of Peaky Blinders who are anxiously awaiting the feature film will be happy to know that principal photography is done. The film is called The Immortal Man, and Cillian Murphy is back in the lead role as Tommy Shelby. Peaky Blinders is the story of post-World War I gangsters in Birmingham. The show ran for 6 seasons between 2013 and 2022 on the BBC and Netflix. Fans of the 28 Days franchise will be happy to know that 28 Days Later will finally be available to stream. The film has been curiously absent from streaming platforms, which is not good for people who want to catch up before the release of 28 Years Later. The second installment, 28 Weeks Later, is available to stream, but Danny Boyle's first film of the franchise has been offline since early 2024 after being purchased by Sony. The film is now available to stream as of December 18th. 28 Years Later is set to hit theaters in June of 2025. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Snow is likely today and tonight. We could get about 2 to 4, maybe a little more inches of snow by the time it winds down late tonight into tomorrow morning. It could also be breezy at times, especially tonight, which could create some blowing snow. 30 today, 23 tonight. Conditions improve tomorrow with a high of 29. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 21.
That's your WMDX Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at mad.radio. The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.